Welcome to Shop Talk by Elevated Stylist, a podcast for the thriving community of salon owners and stylists where we discuss topics in business, wellness, mindset, and more. Join us on this journey and become an elevated stylist. Episode of Shop Talk. Today we have a special episode for you. We are talking with our dear friend Amy Doary, who is a PR consultant, and she is the founder of ADPR. And today we're going to talk about what PR is and why you should even maybe consider it for your salon or stylist. Amy has over 15 years of experience in public relations and has distributed thousands of media pitches and press releases, and has recently really dove into her brand and rebranded herself. And we're excited to have a chat with her today because she's actually worked with us on many of our businesses at Elevated Stylist and Evolve, and we've seen so much great success. So we thought it would be such a valuable episode for everybody out there. Amy, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, Shop Talk. Hello, everyone. Such an honor to be here.
Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for spending your morning with us. So how's it going? How's ADPR going? Tell us a little bit about ADPR. Like, we know about it, but let's tell the viewers, the listeners, I should say.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give a little bit of background. So my background is in my education's in communications and PR, and I worked in entertainment for a really long time, and I still do. I worked at Bell Media and Chum Television. I worked on brands like Much Music and Bravo and City TV, and I worked on 2 different Olympic Games for the broadcaster here in Canada. And then after I did about 10 years, 11 years of that kind of work, I decided that I wanted to launch my own PR firm, doing a lot of the same things, PR for entertainment clients, but I really just wanted to manage my own schedule and pick the people I wanted to work with. So so ADPR is my own company, and I work, it's been 6.5 years since I've been on my own, and it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So a little background, I've known Amy for nearly 20 years. It's so crazy.
Is it 20?
Yeah, it's about 18 years.
God,
and
wow.
I've been doing her hair since then, but I got to see Amy grow over the last many years. And, when I first met her, I'm new to Toronto, and she was working with Much Music all the time. And I just was like, oh my God, she has such a cool job. And, every time there was a big event, she would always bring me in to do the hair with her and stuff. So it was always so cool, but I've honestly seen you grow so much. It's just been such a pleasure to watch. But it leads me to my question, what is PR? Because for me, I was like, oh my God, she has the coolest job. She gets to talk to all these celebrities and all that sort of stuff. But there's so much more to do that goes into public relations. So what the heck is public relations?
It's a fancy term, and it sounds kind of glitzy sometimes. And a lot of what I did starting off when I was at the TV station was a lot of planning red carpets and organizing when Justin Bieber walks and making sure he gets to all the media on the red carpet at the MMVAs, or pitching media to come to an event or to write about a TV show, and organizing interviews, or working with the marketing team and the sales team on what kind of press releases we should write and what the messaging should be, and sending them out to media, whether it was to talk about our ratings or talk about a new guest who is coming to one of our live shows. When I worked at the Olympics, a lot of it was just taking care of the talent when they were there, because a lot of people would just walk into our office and ask for interviews. Can we interview somebody from Canada? Like, the Japan, consulate will come in, or the broadcaster, and just say, hey, we're just walking around, we want to get interviews. So a lot of it was interview based, a lot of writing, a lot of working with talent on prepping media, and a lot of events. And I do that still. But just in the general sense, public relations is really quite literally how you, and we'll talk about a business here, you as a brand or a business relate to the public. So that's your clients, that's even your staff, if you're talking about sort of an internal PR, how you relate to, how you promote yourself in media, traditional or not, or even social media. Now, social media is kind of a beast of its own, but it's still sort of all encompassing. And, PR is sort of part of the marketing mix. So when you think about you're launching a product, you're launching a business, an event, a partnership, and how are you going to promote it? You might consider advertising, you'll probably consider social media. You might consider an event, you might consider an announcement, and you might consider pitching interviews. So we're kind of, public relations is sort of part of marketing, but it is sort of, it's a sect unto itself. And that's why a lot of times in companies, marketing and PR are separate. Sometimes marketing and PR are together, depending on what company you go to. So it's sort of like the cousin of advertising.
I
Does
like
that make sense?
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way that you put it though. It's like how your company relates to the public. I never really actually thought of it that way. It's like
Yeah.
public relations, it's like, okay, let's switch it out a little bit and understand like what does it actually mean? I like that, how your business relates to the public, the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when I worked at the TV station, I mean, I sound so old saying TV station. When I worked at television, I worked around all these different brands, all these different channels. The last thing I did before I left was I worked in corporate communications. So that was more working with executives, talking about the company as a whole, not necessarily talking about a certain channel or a certain talent who was on our channel. My talent was actually the executives of the company. But what I learned there was that and I never thought about it before, but the biggest audience really for most brands or companies is your internal staff. They're your best ambassadors. They're the ones who can generate leads and clients and keep those clients as well. So I'm glad I did that job right before I left television, because now I feel like I have a bit of I have more of a fulsome view of what PR is, because before that job, I never thought about PR as being your employees and your staff and your team members, but it really is. So it's PR is like how you relate to the people who buy your product, your service, and it's also about how you treat your employees and who you pay and your vendors.
So how would you incorporate like an internal PR? How would you incorporate that into like, for example, a salon?
So you know what, before this, I was trying to think of some examples, especially things that you do. And I would think that, and you guys, I think, are really good at this, is messaging, consistent messaging to all your staff members, right? So you're not letting somebody take a break for half an hour and someone only taking a break for 10 minutes and having that consistent, right? Like that's not treating people equally. But I noticed, and I don't know when you guys switched, but you used to call all of your I guess customers, I'll say, clients, and then you switched to calling everybody guests, right? And I thought that was such a really I thought it was interesting. I also thought it's just sort of like a really nice way to refer to people and treat people. You implementing that, because I've heard your staff say that as well, because you've probably implemented that and you've said, hey everybody, we should start calling people, referring to them as guests instead of clients. Here's why. You had some interesting points why. And so you're messaging it fairly and consistently to your staff who are also doing it, and it's representing your business as a whole.
I like that.
I like that. Yeah. I always thought, like, when you think of public relations, you really do, we were talking about this before, the Sex and the City, the Samantha, like you're always thinking that they're getting you out of hot water, like they're flipping the script to, cover up something. But I guess, yeah, PR is really about building that brand within the salon and then within your advertising and your marketing. So really being able to speak clearly within all of your platform.
Yeah, and having like key messaging, you know, it doesn't have to be everyone says this line word for word, but having some clear and concise messaging that goes out, whether it's like you're calling yourself an eco-friendly salon, or um, like your brand is sort of like economical cuts or colors, or like the guest client thing. Like, I think it's important to, like, when you are starting a business or you're doing a rebrand or hiring new staff, you might want to think about, like, what is the messaging we want to give to our clients or guests, and we need to make sure that we're consistent with all of our staff as well. I mean, look, crisis communications is part of PR too. You hope you never need that.
Yeah.
Like, there are Samantha Jones out there. You know, I may have had a situation or two in the past where it's like that, but that's not really what I want to do. And I don't think that's what most companies are facing. You
Right.
know, small companies can have crisis too, but that's, you know, you want to prevent those. You really want to
Yeah.
work on preventing them rather than, like, you know, really diving deep. I can't see, I mean, I should never say never, but like your audience and salons and hairstylists, you know, employing a crisis communication uh, facilitator, because there are PR firms that that's all they do, which would
Mhm.
be my absolute nightmare. But there are people out there that need that.
Mhm.
Things happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you kind of like, as a stylist too, behind your chair or a salon, or you kind of have to have that little bit of crisis communication too, because if there's an unhappy client or there's an unhappy staff member, like, you need to be able to de-escalate the situation
Mhm.
instead of feeding into it. So I think that's also a valuable a skill to have as well. Just like
That's
what you said, you don't want to always do it, but like having that skill is definitely needed.
that's true. And I would imagine, like, amazing salons like yours have some sort of general training to the staff, like, this is what you do. And of course you have to think in the moment and go with the flow, and try to de-escalate a situation. Every case is going to be different, but you probably have some sort of, okay, this is the first step that we do, this is the second step that we do. That's, you know, that's a form of like internal communications and PR for sure, because you're giving your staff the tools to deal with those, you know, hot button situations.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. Um, can you tell us a little bit about like why it's good for your business to have PR? Like, I don't think a lot of salons actually think about like, I mean, we didn't for a long time. We were just like, yeah, social media and like word of mouth. But like, why would a salon or hairstylist go after PR?
So, you know, if you have a salon, or you're working at a salon, or have your own shop or your own chair, you know, all the stuff we just talked about, PR, like messaging consistently to your clients and your staff, like all that stuff's important. Um, but for if you're looking for publicity, which is kind of part of PR, so publicity I would call media relations. So that's pitching interviews, writing stories, getting them on blogs, the news, um, um, radio stations, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. I would say the the main reason to consider that is that it gives your brand, your story, credibility. Because if you are advertising on Google and you're putting stuff on social media, and even your own personal blog on your website, all that stuff is great, and you should 100% be doing all that if that's right for you, for sure. But if you land on a TV show, or you write an article and the Toronto Star wants to publish it or whatever, it's a neutral media outlet saying, "Hey, I think your story is interesting. I think it's credible. Let's put it out there into the world because we think our audience would enjoy it." So, you know, by doing a social post or buying an ad, people know that you're doing that yourself, and you either paid for it or it's free and you're just doing it, right? And like, and again, all that stuff's important, but you get extra credibility if you do place a story in some sort of publication. And also, all that stuff is free. unless it's a
I was going to
specific.
ask you, like, what is that kind of
Mhm.
cost value for the
Yeah.
salons? Because they don't, people are like, okay, now I have to put a budget of like, say, $5,000 for PR a year. Like, what does that look like?
So, I mean, it depends what you want. And frankly, you can hire somebody to do it because it can be tedious, but you don't have to. Like, you could actually, especially if you're starting small and you just want to target 3 or 4 outlets, let's just see if something comes of this. You can actually do it yourself. Um, and I'll just plug, I have a course coming up. It'll probably be in the fall that people can actually take and figure out it'll give you a step-by-step guide of how to pitch stories yourself. But really, if you find a writer if you do a little bit of research and you find an editor or a news outlet, or a website that is sort of interested in stories that you like, similar stories to what you have, find their contact information and send them an email or send them a LinkedIn or message or a DM. Some people accept pitches that way too. And so you can do it yourself. You have to put in the elbow grease. So it's that in that way, it's free technically. But if you do want to hire somebody, I mean, it varies. I'll say for someone like me, if you want to hire somebody just to do a little bit, then hourly might be the way to go, and that could be anywhere from like maybe $100 an hour to maybe like $150 an hour. If you can also negotiate hey, this is something that I want to do, this campaign, it's over 2 weeks, this is kind of where I'm targeting, or just tell them what you want. They'll be able to come back to you with a quote, which might be, 1,500, 2,000, might be more depending on the scope and the size of it. So it can run you, but anybody that you find should give you a quote for free. Like, you should be able to have a conversation for a half an hour saying, this is kind of what I'm interested in, this is what I want to do, or like, what do you suggest I do, here's my situation. And they might give you like sort of like they'll give you sort of a broad strokes campaign and then ask for a quote. They'll give you a quote, and if you can negotiate it down, if you can, or and go from there. But the main point is, like, you actually can do it yourself, especially if you're just starting out and targeting a couple of opportunities.
And is it a numbers game? Like, should you kind of have a template and put it out to as many different blogs and this and that, or do you find value in really honing in on people who are speaking about things that?
Yeah, you should definitely hone in to where you want to see yourself placed. And if you want to see yourself there, look around to see if they're talking about something about what you want to get into. I mean, look, if you're targeting I'm opening a new salon and we have, I don't know, a course that other hairstylists can take, like, you probably don't want to go to the 11 p.m. news in your region, right? Like, that's just not what they're interested in. But if there's a blog like about your city, or there's like a magazine that's sort of like, specifically hair, or if you're female leaders like you guys, I know we've gone to a couple of like female specific business blogs, that kind of thing. So as long as there's some sort of tie-in, because what you don't want to do is start wasting your time and other people's time, because then they kind of have that blacklist, that mental note there. But it is partially a numbers game, and it is sometimes timing. I've pitched a story to like a UK magazine. I thought to myself, oh my God, this is just such a long shot. And they wrote back to me right away saying, oh my God, we have this series, it's been booked up for months, but someone just dropped out. And so, yes, we want your person, right? Like, it was just a fluke that somebody had dropped out the day before and they needed somebody to fill for this series. And I had the exact right person, so.
Talk about alignment.
I know. It happened, but like, it doesn't always happen that way. So I would say plan, if you can reach out a month in advance, even more than that, with a like, hi, this is happening. Are you interested in a story like this?
Mhm.
They might say like, yeah, sure, but like get back to me 3 weeks ahead, right? And then and if they don't get back to you, then you have a little bit of time to follow up. So if you're pitching media, you can go online and find sample pitches, but keep it, mostly everything is done by email now. There's not a whole lot done by phone, but you can just pick up the phone and cold call someone. But I would say, figure out who you want to target, figure out what your story idea is. I always try to pitch more than one story idea in an email. I don't go into a whole lot of depth, but that way, if they see it and they're like, oh, I don't like that, instead of deleting it, they might see the next couple and think, oh, there might be something there, and come back to you. So find a template, put one together, send an email, follow up, and try not to get discouraged. If you don't get anything the first time around, pick another point in the year and try again.
Nice. And so this class that you're teaching, let's talk a little bit more about that, because not all the time small businesses, or especially salons, have a budget for professional PR. So I think that's such a smart and amazing thing that you've come up with this class or this workshop that you teach people like us to be able to approach and do pitches and stuff like that. So what kind of things are you teaching within the class?
So it's going to be a self-paced online course. So there'll be videos from me, and you can go through it as much as as quickly or as slowly as you want. There'll be worksheets and resources and templates and all this kind of stuff. But it's basically to show you how to put together a media relations campaign. So it talks about, how to formulate key messaging, what kind of media materials like bio, headshot, company background, or all that kind of stuff. What are the type of documents that you need that media might ask for? It talks about angles. So how to develop an angle, how to develop a story idea, and it gives you some sort of, gives some examples as well. And then it kind of goes into how to pitch, interview, like how to prep for an interview, and then what you should be doing with interviews after, putting them on social media, website, blog, etc. And then it also goes into a couple of other non-traditional media ideas, like using, if you're the type of company that does surveys and studies, how you can use that to try to get media attention, or what a publicity stunt is and when that might be of interest. I go into a little bit about social media influencers, but I don't hardcore go into that, because I feel like that's a whole other course in itself. And I know a lot about that, but I'm certainly not a specialist. So eventually I will bring in people to talk about that, but it's really targeting quote unquote traditional media, which is kind of what people don't think about anymore, right? They think about social, think about Google and Facebook ads, but they don't think about, a newspaper or a blog or a TV station, or, some people don't even know what's out there anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while the traditional media landscape is changing, it's definitely changing. It's still there, and it's still valuable, because they're the ones that give you that credibility.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds like a whole lot of juicy information
Mm-hmm.
for business owners to get into. I think that's such a great course, because like Jody was saying, as salon owners, like, it's not the one thing that you have as a budget, and like you're like, okay, how am I going to get my salon out there? Social media is not the only thing. I mean, it's a great thing, but not all your clients, like we always say, not all your clients live on Instagram. Not all your clients live on Facebook. They're perusing around the internet. Like, so many of our clients don't have Instagram, and we're like, and it's a great opportunity to get in front of their hands, is like knowing the different types of media outlets that you can put yourself in front of. I think that's great. I can't wait to see what this course is about.
And the good,
Mm-hmm.
and I and I think it's good for companies who are small. They maybe have, 5 or 6 employees, or even less, where you want to assign somebody like, okay, you're going to be in charge of our, PR, our media campaigns, we'll try twice a year to get some media coverage or whatever. This course will really, it gives you the basics so that somebody can be trained to do what you need to be done. As you grow and things get more complicated, or you want bigger campaigns, I would always recommend to hire someone, because it takes so much time, and it'll take time away from you and your business. You can do it, but like somebody specialized doing something kind of major. But for the general startups, for small business who aren't looking for like a lot of publicity or media relations, but they just want someone to know how to do it within their organization to spot opportunities, this will be a good course for people to have.
This would be a great thing for any like front coordinator or salon manager. A great way to give different incentive or promotion would be to add this to their
or someone that looks
duties.
after your social media, right? The person that looks after your social media is a great, give them a little bit more tools on like how to get your name and your brand out there a little bit more.
Yeah. And the great thing about like the hair and the beauty industry is that there's built-in hooks all year long, right? Every season there's new hair trends, there's new beauty trends. And it's so visual, right? You actually can see a transformation if you go in and out of, a salon. I mean, most times. And media that are visual. So if you can put photos, or if it's a, TV station or, YouTube series, whatever, I constantly get asked whenever I pitch TV stations, they're like, do you have B-roll? Do you have video? Do you have supporting video that you can provide us? And with something like what you do, you always do, because you can very easily take a before and after or what have you. And that's really engaging for the audience, rather than just like coming on and just talking straight to camera. Like having some visuals is always an asset, and kind of always, prioritize speak. It'll put your story like in a priority order.
Nice. I had such a great idea right now for like a little bit of a pitch deck for any salon that could, if they're looking or like stumped on what they could pitch if they don't have a big event coming up or anything. I love what you said about like we have seasons, and what you could do is like on an upcoming season, say in 2 seasons, you put together 4 different trends, and you get your salon to kind of do it all together and do a couple models and put together this pitch deck, and then send it out to your local magazines or online stuff, and see if you can get your spring line out there or your fall line or something like that. I think that would be a fun project to do with the salon, and then also have some really great material to do pitches too.
Yeah, I mean, they're just flowing to me now. Like you could talk about, ways to prepare your kids to come to the salon, right? Like so many like younger parents of younger kids are like, oh God, there's scissors, and how do I get them to stay still? And will my phone last for them to watch it long enough? But like you guys would have lots of experience in that. Like that's like a whole other angle. Back to school haircuts, eco-friendly, and what salons are doing, what you're doing for the environment, right? Like there's tons of angles, trends, or how to do your own trim your own bangs. Like that was a big one in COVID, right? Like how many stories did you see? Okay, nobody can go out, but like this is how you trim your own bangs, right? So hopefully, that's kind of going away because people are going back to the salon, but there's always little things like that that people are interested in. And it's very visual, right? Because you're like, have the scissors, or you have videos, or you have before and after.
Yeah, it's like easy digestible content for people to relate to. I like that. I remember before COVID, we had actually decided to do a photo shoot. We were organizing as a team to go and collaborate with each other, and then COVID happened, and then we just threw it all out of the window. But I like that idea that you brought that back. It's a great way to kind of get your work out there too, like people don't know, especially if you're a new salon too. I think it's a great idea to put your, ideas together and bring your work to your community, because people don't know what your work is. I remember when we first started doing hair, I mean, when we first opened our salon, like we threw a hair show, we threw a hair show in like our area, and like got the community out, and people were watching from the balconies, and it was fun. Now that we look back at it, I'm like, we did some wild hair, and like it's none of the hair that we do in the salon, but it attracted some attention because they were like, oh wow, these people are like really creative, and like, and we had a camera crew, and he did an interview on us, and he put it on YouTube, and that thing will haunt us forever. But
yes,
well, and
but it's good to do stuff like that.
Events and partnerships, and sometimes that involves money, but it doesn't have to. If there's something coming up and like the talent need a haircut, or if there's an event happening and the host or some models need hair or beauty or like whatever, right? Like they can thank you on stage and put your logo up there, and that doesn't necessarily cost you anything, especially if it's something local, because of course for salons, right, you want to target your local community for the most part, right? Because if you want the walk-in traffic, people aren't going to drive across the country to come to your salon no matter how great you are. So you have to also like target what you want. Now you guys have elevated Stylist, with everything being so virtual and online, at least currently, you can target the whole world, right?
Much bigger sea.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of fish in that sea.
Yeah. Wow, so many great little tips in this episode. We always love to end our episodes with a real tea. So it could be a tip or a truth or a trick, something that I don't know about a trick, but something that our audience can put in their back pocket, that they can always remember to come back to.
I think I'm going to do truth, because I think the reality is, since social media has come out, people think all you need are ads and a good Instagram, right? But this is what I say to them. I say that if you were going to build a house, would you want a hammer or would you want a screwdriver? Spoiler alert, you'd want both, right? Like, don't.
I'm like, I don't know. Which one
like, I know. I'm like, is that a trick question?
Is that a trick question? I don't know the answer.
I should have said, when you're doing a haircut, do you want a comb or do you want a brush? But I mean, you want everything. You want to use all the tools at your disposal, right? So just don't think that publicity or reaching out to more traditional media is a waste of your time. It's like, it doesn't have to be done, every day like a social post does, but if you target and strategize correctly, it can be a really useful tool that gets a lot of eyeballs. So I would just say, don't forget about it. Just use all the tools in your disposal and consider pitching media, coming up with some sort of event or campaign about trends or anything like that you could speak to. And because it also, if you get out there in that type of way, you also start to look at it as like a community leader, a thought leader in your industry, and that just brings more people to your party.
Love that.
Thank you. Love that tip. The truth. It's a tip and a truth at the same time.
Yeah, I love it.
And a trick, because that was a trick question.
It's a triple T.
2 in 1. It's a 2 in 1.
Amy, thank you so much for giving us so much valuable teachings today. I feel like now I want to go out there and PR the shit out of myself.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And we'll keep everybody posted as well with her upcoming class and workshop. So we will definitely be putting that up, and we'll have a link for her class as well.
Yeah, we'll put her website link on this podcast description, and you can actually sign up to her newsletters, and she will keep you in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's lots of tips in my newsletter and just sort of cool media outlets that maybe you haven't thought about. And yeah, adpr.ca is my website, and the course will be up there in the fall. But also, I do other things like press release writing or just one-on-one sessions if anybody's sort of interested in learning more. But you can browse around and contact me if you like.
Perfect.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks, girls. This was fun.
Thank you for tuning in. For more ways to connect with us, please join our online community on the Mighty Network platform, a space to learn, grow, and connect.